Hello, welcome to PSY-POD, the podcast about nothing, the podcast where we bring local people to talk about local vibes. We are just like Ice, Dew Fresh, and YY during maths class. Same energy, okay. So today we have also another interesting guest, like as always, but if you could kindly look into a camera and say hello to our local and international fans.
Hey everyone, my name is Palden Tshering, and I am presently head of operations for Global Reach. Global Reach is a company that has offices in Bhutan, of course, Sri Lanka, Nepal, India, and in Australia, of course. And I work for my wife. My wife is chairman of the company, and I am presently employed by her.
Wow, so boss in the house and out of the house.
Home minister all the way.
Okay, all right, we'll get into that. Okay, with that being said, live from Juno Studios, PSY-POD starts now. All right, before this podcast begins, a special shout out to our sponsor, Global Reach, a trusted name, a trusted brand, helping you connect with all universities abroad since 2004. So if you guys are considering to study abroad or already planning to study abroad, why don't you go with Global Reach? Because they're connected with many universities in countries like Australia, America, Canada, New Zealand, to name a few, plus many more. Especially in Australia, where they've been connected with 40 universities. Yes, 40 universities. And not only that, they'll help you with their certified counseling and their transparent guidance, plus extra services like helping you with your health insurance, flight ticketing, and bank account setup. Basically, everything's covered all under one roof. So if you guys want to get in touch, you can contact them through their website, their social media links, or even visiting their offices in Thimphu and in Phuntsho. Global Reach, a trusted name, a trusted brand. Now, back to the episode. Okay, all right, we're back. Before we begin, just special shout out to DOMCIIP for helping us support this podcast with the hardware and also our members. So right now, there's nothing you can see, sir, but if you look up, imagine in post-production we'll have a bunch of names floating because those are our podheads.
Thank you.
Thank you to our podheads, our members who support this podcast directly. Thank you for supporting this podcast and the hot water that we are drinking today. If you want to be a member, please check the link in the description, or you can click the join button. This option is for people who live abroad, unfortunately, but we'll get into that.
Yep.
Yes, we'll get into that. But then before you do, please check out, there's good perks. You can get member-only posts, early releases, badges, and other stuff like that.
Very good. Very good.
And you'll be in my heart for
What about these
supporting.
PSY-POD mugs?
These PSY-POD mugs, what do you mean? Well, these are actually a gift from a guest. Actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so this was also a gift from a fan. This was a gift from a guest. We're basically, we're like a Kido office. We take anything which people give us. So
The recipients.
Recipients. So anything you provide, we will accept. Most what do you call graciously. Okay, and also if we have to give a shout out to our podhead pros, Ugyen Tech and Pema Samdup. Thank you. You are an upgraded version of a podhead. So you're a podhead pro. So you get a visual shout out. See, your names are here. Your face is here. Great. Okay, all right. And also, if you want to travel abroad, actually, funny enough, our long-time sponsor is actually here today to talk about a long sponsored content. Haha, you guys didn't think about it, huh? I tricked you to watch the long sponsored content. Okay, it's long now. But anyways, yeah, if you want to go abroad or considering to study abroad, scan the QR code which is up here, and then. But we can get into that in depth today. Okay, sir. Let's begin. All right, so let's just talk about at least what I know you for. So
Okay.
Which is Global Reach. So Global Reach started in 2004, right?
Global Reach started in 2004. It started off with my father calling me up one day. I was still working in Kunsel back in the day. And he called up and he said, why don't you think about becoming an education consultant? And Dad always had these ideas that he would throw out at me and say, why don't you try doing this? Why don't you try doing that? So when he said this, I was like, okay, what is an education consultant? And Dad said, find out. So I said, okay. So I did my homework. I found out about it. And we started sending students to India. That's how we first started. So we took them out to Delhi. We took them out to Calcutta. And as much as we thought it was a great idea, it it actually did work out all right, but there was a lot of nuances that, you never take into consideration. One was nobody had heard of an education consultant in Bhutan. And back then, I think, if I remember correctly, 21 years ago, we had called ourselves the education advisor. That's what I started off as. And people didn't know about it, so we went around, we spoke. I went to offices and just gave them the lowdown on it. And slowly we started getting inquiries about students who wanted to study primarily in India, which was fine.
Okay.
So we got to Delhi, we took a whole bunch, and I soon found out that, the nuances were, the weather's too hot, I can't eat the food, and basically stuff that international students go through anywhere in the world. But for Bhutanese that had never really been out of Bhutan, it was a different experience, and especially dealing with the Indian heat, that was something that nobody had anticipated because admissions at that time takes place in peak summer. And so we're talking of about, high 40s, dry heat. And it was difficult for the kids, but, they were there for a purpose. And we did what we had to do and continued that for about 2 years. And then I said, India's a little bit tough. Let's see if we can try and branch out and see if we can work out in other countries. And then Global Reach came into the picture, and it's been good ever since. Okay. So we've really been doing this since 2004, as you said. We've learned a lot along the way. Again, there was nobody else doing it initially, and over the course of the years that passed on, people started seeing this, similar opportunities, and they jumped on the bandwagon. And so today I think we have close to 80 education consultancy and placement firms. The interesting thing was when we started off, there was no regulations or compliance that was required for this because nobody really knew how to categorize it. So when we put up the business license to trade and industry, they said, okay, continue what you're doing, but we'll try and figure out where to place you. Because again, it was a completely new concept. So we operated, I think, for about 2 years before we actually had to register ourselves. So it was good. Back then I had, and I still have a little Maruti 800. And I operated primarily out of that. I had my little printer in the back seat, and then I would go door to door to people's homes and print out letters and stuff like that, and just trying to make it a little official. And it worked out very well. Okay. And I was still working with Kunsel, but this was like a part-time thing.
It's a side hustle.
Yeah, it was basically a side hustle. Okay. Back then, everyone had to have a side hustle, otherwise it was difficult to, to make ends meet. But it was a great experience, and I'm very, very happy with the way things have progressed. So that was my first real venture into independent business and entrepreneurship. Yeah, man.
So where does the name Global Reach come from?
Okay, so Global Reach. So when I say Global Reach came into the picture, I had reached out to this particular company called Global Reach. And I said, I'm interested in sending students to different countries other than India. And the guy that I spoke to, who's the managing director, said, Bhutan, we're not really interested. So I said, okay. A year later, through a common friend, Bobby Hing, he is friends with the managing director. They know each other. And Bobby said, you're doing this already. Why don't you try this? And I said, Bobby, I called up the guy, and he just wasn't interested. He said, well, give him a call again. And so then they reached out, we communicated, and everything came into to what it is today. So I was very happy. And as a result of that, we now deal with, we deal with every university in Australia, colleges, institutions, universities in the US, the UK, colleges, Singapore, Dubai, Malaysia. Well, it has a global reach. Let's just say that. So it's been a very, very interesting journey. But in our particular scenario in Bhutan, it's primarily focused in Australia. This has become the thing. Yeah. But if we really look back in the 60s, Bhutan became a part of the Colombo Plan. Back then, the Bhutan's delegation was led by Ashitashi, and she got us through and then we became members of the Colombo Plan. As a result of that, the Colombo Plan primarily deals with education and information. And so through that, we had a lot of senior bureaucrats back in the day that actually went to Australia. So the Australia-ism as such is not something new. It's not something that happened because we started promoting it, but it started happening way back. It's just that, not many people had heard about it. Social media didn't exist, and it was just a place to go to. So let's say 21 years ago, marketing, promotion, our primary focus was educating the market. I can proudly say that today we don't need to educate the market anymore because the market is completely educated. And very rarely now do we have an instance where somebody walks in and says, I know nothing about Australia. Help me. Generally now they come in with a pretty clear picture in mind and a plan, and they say, this is really what I want to try and do. This is the state that I'd like to go to. And of course, they know more about it because of friends and family that have already been there. But a result of 21 years of promotion and marketing has led to an educated market in Australia. So is Australia a new destination that has come to being in the last 20 years? No, it's not. Okay. Australia has always been there. It's just that not many people from Bhutan went. Okay. And again, that's a direct result of, social media. Okay. It just didn't exist back then.
So when you initially started, you said India was like the top destination. So which was the alternative places you're trying to send people?
Aside from India?
Yeah, aside from India.
Okay, well, look, India was primary. I studied in India. A lot of my people in my generation, we all went to India. India was the number one place. And for a lot of people, it still is. Proximity, price-wise, you can't beat it.
Yes.
And of course, the fact that India and Bhutan are so close, it's just a lot easier. And so there's a lot of access as well. Now, when we talk about the Indian category that students want to go there, then we have an Asian category, those that might want to go to Bangkok, those that might want to go to Malaysia, and then we have another category that goes into Australia. And then, of course, you have the UK, the US, but, it just is what it is. The market dictates where the kids want to go. But primarily, as I said before, it remains to be Australia.
Okay. So even in the initial stage, people wanted Australia was a destination.
Australia was a destination. There were some inquiries. We really tried pushing Malaysia back in the day, and even New Zealand.
Okay.
We had country-specific fairs where all the universities in New Zealand came out here, and very few takers. Just again, not too many people were keen. But because there was something already established, there was a footprint in Australia, I think that's really what kept that path open and the door open. And so that's where the movement came in. So do we have students that went to Malaysia? Yes. Were there many? No, they were far and few.
I went to Malaysia, actually.
Oh, you did?
I studied in
Malaysia. There you go, man. But again, not many people took that opportunity.
Yeah, not many people did.
And again, it's... When you decide on a place to study, you look at it as an investment. One, you could be looking at different factors as well. The nuances are there as to why would I want to go somewhere nearby? Why would I want to go to a place that's easier to get home to? That might be financially a little bit more affordable. If something should happen, what's the accessibility to return home or for somebody to come out there? So many different factors. But again, Australia-ism is very much in the picture. And even then, Malaysia, Australia. New Zealand, Australia.
So what do you think, other than the appeal of, let's say, working wage, which is quite lucrative in Australia, other than that, why do you think people, at least in Bhutanese, we opt to go to Australia? Or at least initially, what did you think it was the appeal?
21 years I've been doing this, right? The first time I went to Australia was in 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
And I never felt the need to go to Australia at all. Okay. The important thing for me was to ensure that the counselors all went to Australia first and foremost.
Oh, really?
So every free trip that was presented to us, I never went. I always nominated one of the counselors to go. Why? Because they're the front line.
Yeah.
They're the ones that deal with the clients. They're the ones that have to have firsthand knowledge and say that, look, I've been there, I know what it's like. This is what you should expect.
Okay.
So that in itself not only adds credibility to the counselors, but it gives them an insight. And so when they speak a lot more confidently. They speak with a little bit more knowledge, firsthand knowledge as such. And finally, when I went, whether it was 2017 or 2018, and that was because my elder daughter went to Australia for university, I was like, wow, it's nice. Yeah, she went to Perth. She went to Edith Cowan University.
Okay.
She studied graphic design. And I definitely see the attraction for Bhutanese wanting to be in Perth.
Okay.
It's pretty relaxed. It's great weather. The people are all real nice. But having said that, it's not just Perth-centric. In general, even Melbourne, I mean, wherever you go to in Australia, Aussies are very, very relaxed people. And they're always quite friendly. You know? And so that's, just something that that you see. You walk down the street, you get used to saying hi. Some random person, hey, how's it going?
Okay.
Have a quick conversation, move on. You walk into a shop, the person there has time. Where are you from? What's going on? How's your day been? No. And so, conversations strike up that way. And it's refreshing. It's nice. And so sometimes experiencing that and doing it, you return, not generally to Bhutan, but, another place in Asia. And you say, hey, good morning. The guy just looks at you and walks straight past you. So it's probably a cultural thing as well. But to answer your question, what was it about Australia? This is just some of the things that do it. The other thing is that Australia is very unhierarchical. Does that make sense? There's no hierarchy as such.
Okay.
Okay, so whether you're a trader, whether you're a blue-collar worker, a white-collar worker, whether you're a banker, whether you're a minister,
There's no
whether
social...
you're the guy that boxes vegetables, everyone's the same.
Okay.
Everyone's the same. Everyone's treated the same. There's no sense of what's the right word? What do you think the right word is?
I don't know. I think sense of social class difference.
Yes,
Is that
there
the
you
word?
go.
Discrimination?
Discrimination.
Okay.
There's no sense of discrimination, and it's refreshing in many ways. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because I think when people from Bhutan go there, suddenly they're exposed to this, and they're like, this is very, very different. And again, it's a cultural thing. If you want to know what Australian culture is like, Australian culture is it's a melting pot of different cultures, to be precise. I had this conversation earlier today with a professor from Edith Cowan University, and I asked her, I said, what would you define as Australian culture? And she said, you've got Bhutanese, of course, you've got Indians, you've got Filipinos, you've got Indonesians, you've got Malays, you've got Vietnamese, you've got Russians, you've got English. They're from all over the world. And so a lot of things are picked up, but there's a lot of things that just kind of get dropped as well. And there's just this sense of there being a very level, flat playing field. So nobody has to run uphill or downhill in that sense. But when it comes to work, you have to work your ass off. I'll be very, very clear with that. Aussies do everything themselves. And so that's why there's a lot of fit Aussies. One, of course, when it comes to sports, I think that the greatest sporting nation as such. But when it comes to just doing things, they don't have people to pick up this or pick up that. They'll do it themselves. And they take great pride in that. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. There's a lot that we can all learn from each other. And I would expect that a lot of the Bhutanese that are presently in Australia doing and living that culture, when they return to Bhutan, I think that they would be a lot more civic-minded as a result, law-abiding to a very large degree. And I say law-abiding because Aussies are as relaxed as they are. When it comes to rules, it's very, very black and white. as long as you follow the rules, everything is fine.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
It's literally like that. And if you cross the rule, you're in trouble. Straight off. Boom. And it's, again, very, very black and white. So that kind of, there's no gray area as such. So that mindset, when they return, is a good thing. Is a good thing because, again, it inculcates that culture, that system. I'm not saying that Bhutanese are non-law-abiding. I'm not saying that we don't have any of that. But as a general rule of thumb, a very large generalization, these are the things. Instead of throwing trash out of your car, looking for a place to dump a garbage bag or a cardboard box full of trash by the road, they're very, very particular about these things. And so the one challenge that I have when I am in Australia is the sheer amount of garbage that we collect, whether it's boxes or bags or food. I don't know where to dump it. Because again, things are so black and white. Your garbage bin is full and you still have garbage to put away. And I don't know where to put it. And so I literally ask, I mean, look, it's, you have garbage bins.
Yes.
Right? So you have garbage bins and the garbage collectors come once a week.
Okay.
So they have a red garbage bin, a yellow garbage bin, and a green garbage bin.
Okay.
The green garbage bin is for environmental stuff, like, grass cuttings, tree branches.
Okay. Biodegradable.
Biodegradable stuff. Okay. And then you have recyclable stuff, which is the yellow bin.
Okay. So you put
and
PET
then
bottles.
And then you get this tiny little red bin. I mean, it's half the size of the green and the yellow bin.
Okay.
And that's for all the general trash.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to segregate.
Okay.
Because if you don't segregate, your stuff is not going to fit in the garbage can.
Okay.
And then you have a problem. Okay. Because you cannot keep garbage out of the bin when the bin collector comes. Okay. Because either you'll get fined,
okay,
you'll get demerit points or something, or they just won't pick up the trash.
Okay.
And so when you're staying in a neighborhood where everyone's law-abiding, you have to conform. And so, I would literally drive around with garbage in the back of the car, trying to find where I can dump it. Not on the street, of course, but
Somebody's watching. Okay.
yeah, the Aussie dump it. They are watching now. But the thing is that I'm looking for garbage bins in malls or in shopping centers or in grocery stores that they have these public large bins to dump the garbage in.
Oh, isn't it like if next to your condo or your apartment, there's no like a dumping area or something?
No, I mean, so maybe some places do, but it's not easy to find. Let me just say that.
Okay, okay.
So you have to be very particular
with your waste. Huh?
with your waste. So just keep that in mind, and it's a good thing that we should all learn. I've learned about that. And I am quite mindful when I'm here with my trash as well.
Yes, yes. I also, I lived in Japan, so it was all that plus more.
Now, in Japan, they've gone to the extent where there's no garbage bins publicly.
Yeah.
So you're expected to carry your garbage and dump it at home.
Yes, yes.
I don't know how big the bin sizes are, but...
So it's like every time you go into a new city, you have to go to the Tromde of the local area and then to give you a pamphlet about their waste management. Yep. So main is waste, and they see like Mondays they come for the wet,
there you go.
Tuesdays come for the dry, so and so. And they also tell you how you to manage your waste. So right now I've become when you're telling me all this, I was kind of like PTSD because I did all that, plus we had to segregate. So if you get a PET bottle, you take out the cap, you take out the plastic wrapper, crush the thing, throw the plastic separately, throw the wrapper separately, throw the cap separately, throw the beer can separately, wet separately, the burnables, the glass, the lighters.
Okay, that's like extra.
So I had like literally 6 bins at home because I don't want to get into trouble. Yep. So and again, when you dump the wet garbage, the plastic has to be the
degradable,
the Tromde approved one. Otherwise, they're gonna. So I know all this and more. So that's why I think, like you said, you have to conform.
You have to conform.
And then when you bring it back to Bhutan, you're like, oh, I thought Bhutan was clean. We're not that clean. We're not that clean. We're not that clean.
There's a lot that we can learn from. And again, this is the whole thing about international student movement. There are things that, yes, they will learn from us. the one thing that the professor said today was that, how would you describe a Bhutanese student? She said, I'll describe them with two adjectives. Respectful and good students. Yeah, those are the two adjectives that she used. And she said that that is what makes them stand out from others. And so again, this is part of our culture where we respect our teachers.
Yes.
You won't call them on a first name basis as such. We are just, it's just the whole system that we've all grown up in through the education system that has led students to be in a very specific way when they travel abroad. So do they represent Bhutan well? I would say, hell yes, they do. And that's one thing that teachers and professors notice. They never really have issues disciplinary-wise with students that are in college or in university. But she did say that Bhutanese do have issues with academics and academic integrity, to be precise. Now I said, okay, explain that. Tell me, what is it about the academic integrity that we kind of crossed the line with? And she said that Bhutanese have a strong community. And of course, she herself coming from that kind of a community, everyone tries to help each other. And they go out of their way to help each other. So like, Sai, I know you're stressed out. I know you're working. You hardly have any hours left in the day to finish your assignment. I'll do it for you. Now, this is being done because we're a community. This is being done because we're brothers, we're friends, whatever it might be. And I'm saying, look, don't worry. And then, you submit it. And that is an academic integrity fault. Because I'm the one writing your assignment.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's an issue. So the root cause of it happening is genuine. It's a good thing because of the community, but the end result is that you'll get an F. Simple.
Okay.
Right. And so those are some of the issues. The other thing she was mentioning is when it comes to academics is the ability to not plagiarize. And I'm not sure whether our education system addresses this enough, but giving credit to where the source is from is extremely, extremely important. And so when you're submitting an assignment that is either pulled out from the internet or pulled out from somebody else's work, if credit is not given, that's plagiarism. And plagiarism is taken very, very seriously.
Oh, yeah. Actually, even me, when I was in college, I gave this assignment. It was basically copy-pasted from Wikipedia. And then my professor gave me an earful. And then I realized, they take it much more seriously abroad.
Look, I can still remember, I think this was last year or early this year, Gyunsil came out with a story that I couldn't believe. And again, I mean no disrespect to Gyunsil or the entrepreneur as such, but they basically gave an individual so much credit for being entrepreneurial by saying, I'll write your assignments, you pay me.
Okay.
And
it was like an article about this successful entrepreneur has done a good job by making assignments. Okay.
And so when you read something like that, the first thing that pops, at least in my mind, is, what the hell, man? There's something inherently wrong over here, but we're promoting it. And again, I mean no disrespect, but when you're a student and you're submitting documents or an assignment that is not written by you, you're basically falsifying your whatever it is that you're submitting, your assignment.
Yes.
And again, that's an academic integrity issue. So as well-meaning as it might be, but in this case, you're actually paying the person to do your assignment, it's a big no-no. I mean, in my book, it's a big no-no. Obviously, other people will have different opinions. And yes, is it entrepreneurial? Of course it is entrepreneurial. But it's maybe not something we should be promoting on the national newspaper.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think there is a market for that kind of services.
Oh, yeah. No, look, there's a market for everything.
Yeah.
statement of purposes for applications. Again, being in the business so long, we've come across so many different scenarios. People coming up to us saying, okay, look, you do everything, I'm going to pay you. And they can't seem to understand that, look, when you come to Global Reach, there is no consultancy fee. And the moment we say that, they're like, huh? What's wrong with you? What is it that you're not doing for us? Because we're not paying for the work, for the service. And if I go down the street, I'm paying, 25, 30,000.
Okay.
So something's wrong with the kind of work that you're doing. And I'm going to take this particular instance and go back. Let's go back 18 years.
Okay.
So I'm going back 18 years from now, and again, promoting ourselves, trying to educate the market. There was a time when civil servants were not available. That still happens today. But when we go back 18 years, that situation was still very much in the picture. And the reason why, when you asked, was it's not because they were going to the bank or they were going to the hospital, but it was because the individual the officer on duty or whomever the civil servant was doing research for their further studies, which was a big thing.
Okay.
And they had to do a lot of research because if that service is not provided, it's a real pain in the ass. It's just a lot of paperwork. And so when we went up and I went to every department, every ministry, and I made this pitch. And I said, the reason why we're doing this, an education consultant, firstly, again, what is an education consultant? What do you do? And so I explained everything. And the first question that I was always asked is, what's the catch? How can you offer this service free of charge? And I explained that it's the universities that pay us a commission. Then the thought process was, okay, if the university is paying you a commission, then that means if I apply directly, I'll be paying my tuition fees that much less without your commission. And so I had to explain to them that that's not how it works. Even if you apply to them directly, it's the same price. It's all inbuilt. And so the universities obviously make money from international students. A percentage of that is kept categorically to pay commissions to agents like ourselves who are in this line of work. So whether you apply directly or whether you apply through us, there's no difference. The only thing is that it ensures that you are in your post, you are in office, and rather than you do the work, you outsource it. And so this took a while. I mean, it really took a while for people to really kind of grasp onto. And eventually, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the numbers started increasing. And it's just been, the story ever since. And so now people understand that, look, this is how it operates. There's no real hook. You now have 80 education consultancy and placement firms, and you're completely free to utilize the services of anyone. It really depends on what feels right to you. It's like putting on a pair of shoes.
Okay. So with that being said, what does Global Reach offer that the other 80 other maybe education consultancies don't? What's your unique selling point? Is it okay apart from the experience, because you guys are doing this for 20 years?
Okay. Aside from the experience, I'd like to think that the quality.
1 second, sir. We're back. Okay. So going back 18 years.
Going back 18 years, we were at the educating the market, explaining to HR offices and candidates that wanted to study abroad or had scholarships to study back then. The government always had donor countries that were donating money to have individual civil servants basically get higher degrees to be more proficient in the work that they do. So there was always a budget, and the whole thing was explaining to them that there's no catch and that it's easier to outsource the work, let us do the work for you at no additional cost, and you can continue with your daily work. So that took a little bit of time, and like I said, it grew, and it's been pretty much good ever since.
Oh, I think what I asked you, and I just remember, I said, what does Global Reach offer?
Oh, okay.
Unique selling point.
Okay, so one, I would like to think, and I could be wrong, but I would like to think that our counselors, aside from having firsthand experience traveling to Australia, visiting the universities, and knowing what it's like as an international student, for the initial stage at least, they are able to speak a lot more confidently as a result. They're at least able to speak with a little bit more depth. And when you counsel, the person sitting across the table really wants to understand what it's like and what the process is. Sometimes they may not comprehend certain things, but if you've been there, it's a lot easier to explain. So that's one particular aspect that I would like to think our counselors have that. The second thing, of course, is the fact that we represent every university in Australia.
Okay.
And that's one thing that I am sure nobody else can say. So that's very much there. But having said that, it really doesn't make a difference. You know why? Because everyone wants to go to one location. And you know that location? Western Australia, Perth. It is the hot selling ticket, and it's going to continue being the hot selling ticket. We've managed to push students out now, at least to give them options and let them know that, yes, Brisbane is there, which if we go by the numbers, we're looking at Perth, of course, being number one. You're looking at Brisbane and Canberra being number two. You're looking at Melbourne and even Tasmania as being number three now. And then, of course, you've got Adelaide and Sydney. Bhutan is not a G8 country in the sense that generally the students do not apply to the group of 8 universities.
Okay.
And the reason why is because entry level is a lot more difficult, higher standards, much higher tuition fees. And so Bhutanese are always very, very financially minded. So tuition fees, how much does it cost, makes a big difference.
Okay.
But again, now, having said that, you have students that come in and they say, look, I want to study, let's say, a master's of professional accounting.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know that this particular course is not going to help me gain any points for a longer term stay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply for this particular course because it fits my profile, because everything I've done has been in that particular field. And after one semester of being there, I am consciously making the change to a different course that will lead me or give me the right points into a longer stay in Australia. Now, having said that, being financially minded, we have individuals like this that decide to make the jump and to make the change, but inevitably they end up paying 17,000, 18,000 Australian dollars more because you're losing one full semester, and the credits are not transferable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's when you get into this again, you're looking at making an investment into the future, whether the future is just in a box that says, I'm an international student. Yes, I will work part-time because Australia sells itself as a destination for education and work. Please understand this. This is how they promote themselves.
Okay.
And it's completely 100% kosher. So that's great. The gray area is when you're saying, look, I want to go, but I'm focusing on work and not studies. And so that's where things start going a little bit awry. And again, you need to be quite clued in, and your counselor has to be able to give you all the information for you to make an informed decision.
Okay.
Because if you don't have 17,000, 18,000 lying in your pocket, where are you going to pull it out at the end of the day? Because as an international student, you can work so much. Yeah, your hours are regulated. Yes, you could be working for the least maybe $15 an hour. You could be getting up to $22, $23, $24, $25 an hour, depending on whether it's a weekday, a weekend or weekday, whether it's a holiday or a non-holiday. But you're busting your butt to make ends meet. Yeah. Now, are you going to spend that 17,000 additionally to make this change, or are you going to try and justify and spend a little bit of time and say, look, yes, everything that I've done so far has led me towards a master's of professional accounting. But, I want a life change. I want to become a social worker. I want to look after the elderly. Why? Because my grandparents, my parents, whatever, something in your life that has made you have an epiphany as such to say that, look, I want a life change. And this is something that's not unique to anyone. You've had people, heads of industries that say, you know what? I'm stopping now. I'm going to go live on an island. I'm going to live on an island. I'm going to cut coconuts. I'm going to get a tan, whatever it might be. But they go through a certain life change because that's what they want. And if you're able to explain it, if you're able to explain it because it's a personal account of something that's very unique to you because of your circumstances, then it's justifiable. And again, the one thing about Australians is if you're able to give a very coherent argument in your statement, there's no issue. Yeah. The problem here is that if Sai's writing my statement, how are you going to know what my situation is? How are you going to know the epiphany that I had? What led to that epiphany? What was that light bulb that suddenly went off and said, you know what, I need a life change? Getting into and becoming an accountant, going into becoming a chartered accountant, whatever, the financial background, that's not for me anymore. I'm going to find a lot more life value by going into the old care system, by looking after people, because that's a calling that I've had. But again, you need to be able to explain it. And so this is also the reason why you want to be the one that writes your own statement. I can't stress that enough. The more personal it is, look, when your visa application goes up to the Australian High Commission, where does it go to? It goes to India. It goes to New Delhi. And the New Delhi High Commission looks after India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan. We are one of 4 countries, whose visa officers are going through hundreds and thousands of documents, applications. No. So there's going to be a lot of fraud. Obviously, we know that. So what's going to set you apart in your application? Your personal statement is what sets you apart.
So you're saying that's one of the major factors, like
it is
visas
a
get
primary factor. If you're writing an AI-generated statement,
I love old people.
Whatever it might be, there's certain catchphrases. The amount of statement of purposes that I've read that repeat the same thing, I know exactly what the next sentence is going to say. And then you give it back to the client and you say, it's just too generic. And they're like, I'm not going to spend any more time on it. Now, you don't want to spend any more time on it. You've just paid your tuition fees, which is, you've sent one semester tuition fees at 17,000, 18,000, 16,000 Australian dollars. You're paying your visa fee, which started off at 700 Australian dollars, then jumped to 1,600 Australian dollars. Now international student visa fee is 2,000 Australian dollars.
It's increased.
So you're putting all of that. That's 20,000 gone. And then you're like, I don't want to put in the extra effort to write my own statement. You've got to look at things in perspective and think about what is going to give me the best possible chance of a positive visa outcome. There are no guarantees. Please understand this. Anybody that tells you your visa is guaranteed, you walk out of that office and out of that room immediately, because we all know, and we're all in the same profession. My colleagues, all the guys in the industry are not going to get bugged with me when I say this, because they will agree. Anybody ever tells you that, red flag should be going off. The hair on the back of your neck should be standing up. And you're saying, ooh, I am walking out right now. So that's immediately your red flag. There are never guarantees. Never. It doesn't matter what it might be, whether, you and I are brothers. I lend you $1,000. You say, don't worry, I'll pay you in an hour. There's no guarantee you're going to pay me an hour. There is no guarantee. So you need to take certain life lessons and understand this. And so again, what's that word? Penny pinching, pound foolish.
Yeah,
Something like
penny-wise,
that. Yeah, penny-wise, pound foolish.
Yeah.
So this is something that you cannot do. The other thing that really gives me gripes is your English language proficiency test, whether it's the TOEFL, whether it's the IELTS, whether it's the PTE. When you apply to a university, there are standards and there are requirements for you to ensure that you meet those requirements. So when you don't meet those requirements because your English proficiency is too low, rather than take the test again, they're like, no, put in my application. There's no way I'm going to spend. The TOEFL is the shortest test in the market today. It's an hour and 56 minutes. You get your results within 4 days, the soft copy, and then you get your hard copy within a week. But that is the shortest test on the market. People don't want to do the test again. Test costs about $200. They're like, no. But they would rather risk, a $2,000 visa application fee over $200. So again, where does it balance out? So everything you do as an international student, you've got to look at it from a business perspective, whereby you are making an investment into your future, full stop.
Okay.
And so what's the best way to do it? How do I do it most efficiently? How do I save money? These are the things you do. And again, if you go to the right education, consultancy, and placement firm, you will get the right kind of advice.
Okay. Great. I feel like I need to go to Australia also.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But going back to at least people who are now opting to go to Australia.
Yeah.
Okay, at least in my opinion, I could be very wrong, but here's my analysis. I feel like 50% of people are going there because they want to either get an education and to get a sustainable income living.
Correct.
Okay, so I say like 20% really want to study. I think 30% they need the money, so they just find every key or tool to get me there so I can work it. And then the other 50% I think is fear of missing out. Everyone's going there.
FOMO.
Yeah, FOMO. Everyone's going there. They look like they're having iPhones. They look like they're driving nice Prados. They're making some good money. They're sending money back. They're buying land. Hey, I'm missing out if I'm staying here. Okay, so that's my opinion. And because of that, and also like from the few information I got from my friends living there, they're saying that blue-collar people are working more blue-collar jobs. And you mentioned off camera that obviously they work blue-collar because you're earning more, right? So which comes to the question, is the Australian master's degree now equivalent to an Indian bachelor's degree back in the past, where it's just like it's a piece of paper for me to just use in order to get a job, in order to live there? So what do you think your take is?
Okay, it's a good question. Look, the thing you got to look at is I'm going there for an education, and what am I going to do with that education? So look, whether you go to university A, B, or C, it doesn't matter. What matters is you get a degree. That degree is a requirement in order for you to get a job. There will be some job places that say, depending on where you've studied, yes, easy access, easy job. Some places, well, that's a sketchy college that you went to. We've had a lot of issues with a place like that. We're not offering jobs to those graduates.
Okay.
So that's something to keep in mind. But whether you went to a university A, B, or C in India, and it was a piece of paper that you got, which of course, all our degrees are on paper, it still makes a difference. It makes a difference, and there is value in whichever degree that you do get from whichever institution in order for you to move to the next stage in life. You need that, yeah? I think really gone are the days where you can get by with just a Class 12 certificate. Those days are foreign, they just don't really exist anymore, whether it's in Bhutan, anywhere in the world. But I think you made a great point when you brought out the blue-collar work. blue-collar work. What categorizes as blue-collar work? Blue-collar work could be categorized as being a gardener. Blue-collar work could be categorized as being the garbage collector. It could be, the person like what my daughter does. She's working for an environmental company, and she goes around, she drives a Hilux, and she goes out into the field in these far-off locations, and she tests water, she tests soil. She's there in her, the yellow and blue bright shirt. They have the uniforms, the boots, the gloves, the hard hat, everything, the goggles, and she's carrying pipes. She's doing this, she's doing that. It's physically hard work, and my younger daughter's not a physically large person, but she gets the job done. Having said that, it pays extremely well, and so much so that the conversations that I've had recently in Australia is that a lot of people opt for doing blue-collar jobs primarily because it is higher paying than the white-collar jobs. So it's not about being cushy, sitting behind a desk, which, is great also. There's nothing wrong with that. I sit behind a desk. I cut grass, though, as well, back and, at home. But the thing is that the stigma of being a blue-collar, a manual worker, does not exist in Australia. And that is something that I know will eventually return to Bhutan, because these blue-collar workers that take pride in the work that they do, that are equally treated, and are hard, they're toughened, they will return and they will start inculcating that lifestyle back home.
But will they inculcate the degree?
Well, again, the degree, let's look at my other daughter, Blue. Okay. She studied at ECU. She studied graphic design, but she's back home here in Bhutan now, and she's a chef. She cooks. She's got a restaurant. She's got an event management place. She does all her cooking, all her chopping. She does it all when it comes to the food stuff. And again, life choices. Graphic design's not for me. We said that earlier. I've had an epiphany. I want to do something else. So be it. So the degree that you have, again, it really depends on whether you're thinking of applying for a job and where you're applying for the job, or you want to be your own boss. If you're your own boss, do you need that particular degree? Probably not. But you have to be entrepreneurial enough to understand and know that the things that you've studied in school, at the university level, somehow relates to what you are doing now. It could be anything. So let's say, yes, I studied graphic design, but her ability to decorate, her ability to create masterful pieces of menus, whatever it might be, that comes from a graphic design.
Okay, fair enough.
So there's a lot of things that you can incorporate from what you've studied.
Okay.
And does the degree help? Yes, the degree does help. That answers your question. But again, it depends on where life leads you.
Okay. Okay. So
wait. And so what I wanted to say, the point I was trying to make was that, look, you return back to Bhutan, yeah? You return back to Bhutan. You've been in the blue-collar industry. You come back, you bring back that sense of dignity in the work that you do. So you do it because this is what you're used to, being exposed to that in Australia, right? But you're doing it back home in Bhutan. Your neighbor takes notice. Your child takes notice. And then that's something that they replicate because they see you doing it. And they say, you know what? If this guy can do it, if this woman can do it, so can I. There's nothing wrong with it. The stigma should be removed, things like that. And it will happen. When it comes to businesses, and I keep saying this, yes, there's a national crisis that the Prime Minister has said where we have a lot of people, too many people going out, brain drain, etc. But this is a cycle that every country has gone through. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I have no comment about that. But it is a natural, progressive cycle. What does it mean later on? It means that in the future, the cycle comes full circle. Is everyone going to come back? No. That's not going to happen. That would be, that would be unrealistic. But we would have a percentage that does. And when they return, they will revolutionize the business, the private sector. They will, because of the hard work that they put in, because of the fact that they know that time and money is equivalent. And so I do my work today, I put in the extra hours, I start earlier in the day so I can finish earlier, because things in Australia finish by 5. Cafes, coffee places, 4:30 they're shutting down. Yeah, it's all shutting down. Everything shuts down early. But they go to work early as well.
Okay.
So they put in the time. And so when this comes back, no longer in the private sector, I hope that we'll have people that just are lackadaisical. And this new work ethic that comes in, you will start seeing people that do extremely well as a direct result of their exposure to the hard work that they've done in Australia. And this is what I'm saying that will revolutionize our private sector, because they bring those work ethics back. They will succeed. And what happens? Bhutanese like to copy. We like to see something that's doing well and we replicate it.
Yes.
Yeah. So this will be replicated. They'll say, maybe I'll get up an hour earlier than Sai. I'll get my stuff done. Yeah. So I have time to play later. Right?
I doubt that'll happen soon, though. I don't think that's a Bhutanese thinking process.
I truly believe that it will. It will, and that's why I'm saying that the cycle will happen. It'll take some time.
It takes some time.
One day we will have the ability to walk into a bakery on the way to work and pick up a hot croissant, freshly baked, to pick up bread, to pick up a sandwich, again, freshly done, on the way to work. If I want fresh bread today, I got to wait till noon. I have to wait till 1 p.m. and then I'll get fresh bread.
Yeah.
If I want to buy fresh bread at 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, first at 8, everything's shut.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no bakeries open.
Okay.
So I wait till 9:30, 10. Shutters open up. I'll get yesterday's bread, right? So all of that changes, and it will happen. It will happen, Sai. When? I can't predict that, but I know that it will. What do we see today? We see those that have already returned, young individuals that have changed the food scene. Let's take, of course, my daughter's doing her thing, but let's take another example. There's a place in town, I can't remember.
What kind of restaurant is it?
It's they kind of do fusion. They do Korean. They've got the little stoves and the thing where you can barbecue.
Catch 34. Yeah.
Okay, so apparently that
Guy, he was in Sydney, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so he's opened up a place. It's got a great vibe to it. You walk in, the ambience, everything is just.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah.
And the reason why is because of his exposure. Now, I'm using this as a simple example. That's changed things. You walk in, you're like, I walked in, I was like, ooh, this is pretty neat. And then there's a downstairs. And I walked downstairs and I was like, ooh, this is pretty neat. And so, the thing is that it's changed things. It's changed the way that people see it.
Okay.
People will replicate it because that's one thing that, again, we do. And it's not unique to Bhutan. Everyone does it, right? If something does well, copy it, replicate it, maybe add your own twist to it, add your own vibe to it, but it will happen. But things like this have already started. It might be 2, 3, 4 people that do it. It might be, right now it's the food. Tomorrow it might be work. Tomorrow it might be something else. God knows. Look at you. Podcast. You tell me 5 years ago there was a podcaster doing something similar than this that has TP on the mics? Hell no, man. But you see, this is the vibe that's changed.
Yes.
Now, in the scheme of things, it's one. But when you look at it and people see it, it replicates.
Okay.
And it grows. And that attitude changes as well. The things you talk about on your podcast, it's a very free conversation. 10 years ago, are we having a free conversation? Hell no. Yeah. And I'm not saying that because of anything other than the fact that it didn't exist. So you get exposed to it. You've studied in Malaysia, you've been in Japan, you've been wherever in the world, but all of those experiences has led you to hosting something like this. Yeah. And being entrepreneurial in your own way. Yeah.
Yes.
You're going out, you're promoting, you're marketing, you're finding out people that can invest. Yeah.
Yeah, sponsor me again. I'm looking for sponsors.
Yeah, but that's what it's about.
Okay, I get what you're saying, sir, but okay. No, I agree with all these points now. No disagreements. But I'm just saying, like, what I wanted to do, and I think what your daughter wanted to do is very niche.
Yep.
It's not very generally speaking. And I feel like, since you're saying that many people in Australia are working blue-collar jobs, which pays better, and then the sense dignity of labor is there.
It's
Fine,
there.
all great. But why aren't we sending more Bhutanese to vocational schools to learn carpentry, mechanic, maybe construction, rather than to get a master's degree in business or accounting? Because when I was living in Japan, this is something I understood, because I learned language. I did the language course. And after the language course, they said, okay, now you should go to a vocational school. I said, why do I want to go to a vocational school? I said, okay, if you go to a vocational school, they'll train you for 2 years, and they'll train you the Japanese way. And after that, you're going to go directly into recruitment and you're going to get a job. And then, like, for me, at least, I knew I wanted to do this side. So I was like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to. It's not like I didn't, like, I knew the money and then everything else is similar to what you mentioned in Australia. I said, okay, it's there. But like, if some of my friends who, like, they said, I don't know what I'm going to do in my life, but let's say you learn to become a mechanic for 2 years, you're very good at it, you're going to get a good job, you're going to get good paid, and that's a very respectable blue-collar job.
Yeah.
So why aren't we sending more Bhutanese to vocational schools in Australia rather than the degree?
Look,
is it because of the sexiness?
Yeah, it is the sexiness.
Yeah.
It is. Look, nobody pushes. In our line of work, we're really not meant to push people in any direction. They come in, they have their own notions, their own ideas, and we help guide them along the way. When they ask, we make suggestions. Now, I can tell you a story about a year ago. I was in Perth, and there was construction taking place opposite the place that we were staying. And I'm looking out the window, and I see all these guys, the bricklayers, you know, they're doing their thing, laying the bricks out,
Yeah.
And I've got a friend who's in the construction industry, and I said, you know, these guys are out there, they're laying their bricks, they're taking their time, they're just doing it. They've got a vibe happening, they've got that routine. It's interesting to watch. And he says, how quick were they? I said, they're taking their time. And he said, you know why? I said, why? Because they get paid $5 per brick.
Oh, yeah. They get paid by brick.
Yeah.
So they can take the suit.
So, to answer your question, vocational work, a mechanic, a carpenter, an electrician, does it pay well? Hell yeah, it does. Why aren't more Bhutanese taking up getting into vocational training? Time will tell.
But does Global Reach offer, like, maybe some, like some diploma, colleges or universities where you can learn to be a plumber or something like that? You guys do offer? Okay, so yeah, something to think about, guys. Especially, I think, at least in Australia, what do they value? I think they value aged care right now. Aging
Aged
population.
care, okay, nursing is top of the list.
Yeah.
Aged care, yes. Social work, those are the things that a lot of Bhutanese are into.
Yeah.
And it could be just because, I don't know, maybe we're a little more gentle than the average white person. I don't know. But we seem to be doing very well in that sector, and a lot of positive feedback. Everyone that's engaged with the Bhutanese has engaged in a positive manner. Yes, there'll always be a couple of bad apples here and there, but that's not a Bhutanese thing. That's just a global thing.
But I feel like, if someone's considering to go to Australia and they're like, okay, I don't really want to work in an office. I don't really want to care about what I do. I just want to make a lot of money. I think maybe I consider just going directly instead of getting that degree and the gown picture. Just go and study aged care for like 6 months, and then after that you're going to get a really good paying job. At least, I don't know, it makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, it doesn't happen that easy, but yes, the progression is such. But look, the thing is that there's a lot of opportunities. People are also advised. Sometimes well-meaning advice is the wrong advice. Sai, you've gone through, you've gone through Global Reach. You're studying at a top university. You're paying X amount. and then a well-meaning friend comes up to you in Australia who says, don't worry about this. Change your course, change your provider, which is basically the provider means your university. Downgrade yourself, go to a cheaper college, a private college that that's going to cost like a quarter of the price that you're paying now. The classes will work around your work schedule. Yeah, so you want to work on the weekdays, you work on the weekdays. Your classes can be arranged on the weekends.
Okay.
That's all fine and dandy, but it's going to affect your visa later on. Yeah.
Okay.
So that well-meaning friend is giving you well-meaning advice, but doesn't let you know what's going to happen down the line. And so suddenly, when you're applying for a longer stay, the progression that you've made, where you've taken one step forward and two steps back, is very clear in the system. And then the red flag goes up and says, what the hell happened here? Why did this happen? And if you're not able to justify it, you've got an issue. Yeah.
Okay.
So some things you must do your own homework. Speak to the professionals. And who are the professionals? Hell yeah, I'm going to say Global Reach. But again, there are education, consultancy, and placement firms that are able to give you the right advice. And you need to just ask the right questions.
Okay.
Because if you don't, and you listen to what well-meaning individuals are trying to tell you, you could be led very, very much astray. And I'm going to bring you into another story. Look, I was asking my counselors, I said, what are the weird things that you come across? And a weird thing is, I've just graduated. I could have graduated from whichever university, whichever college in the region. I'm going to pursue my master's, but I didn't graduate with distinction. I just passed. And so my grades really are no good at all.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to Jaigong and I'm going to fabricate a degree. I have a degree already, by the way.
Okay.
But I'm fabricating a degree.
Master's degree?
Yep.
Okay.
An undergraduate degree.
Okay.
I'm fabricating an undergraduate degree with better marks.
Okay.
Yeah. From some institution in India.
Okay.
That is something where you are going down the rabbit hole. And you start heading in that direction, you're going to get rogered down the line. You will get rogered. So these are the things that happen. Like, I can get this document. You go down that way, eventually you're going to bring the country's name down as well. Because the visa assessment has a lot to do with which country you're from as well. And so again, like I explained, the High Commission in New Delhi is seeing applicants from India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan. So when they come across so much fraud, and they know that Bhutan is fraud-free, obviously they look at a Bhutanese visa application with a softer eye. But inherently, because of all the BS they have to deal with, they're still going to ask the tough questions, and they're still going to scrutinize things to a degree, which unnecessarily makes it a little bit more difficult for the applicant, even though there's no reason for it, for Bhutan especially. Eventually, when they hear that, that if, God forbid, a situation comes where there's a lot of issues like this, and people really start getting into the forgery of documentation, leads you right downhill, and then before you know it, the country's name will go down, and then the assessment level will move, and it just becomes that much harder for any individual Bhutanese that's trying to apply as an international student. So just keep that in mind. You're not just affecting yourself, you're affecting the name of the country. Yeah? So please keep that in mind. Stay far away from BS like that.
Okay.
The other thing that they want to try and do is, they say, look, I've graduated, I've got my degree, but I don't want to show that because I've done so badly. I mean, I just didn't, again, graduate with distinction. I graduated just pass. So rather than show my degree, I'll just show my class 12 marks and say I want to apply for my undergraduate studies. And, you're like 24, 25 years old, and you've passed out from class 12 like 3-4 years ago, and suddenly you have this huge gap. It's unrealistic for you to expect a visa officer to be looking at that gap and saying, What have you been doing for the last 4 years?
Okay.
Yeah. What have you been doing to sustain yourself, to make me believe that you are genuinely a student?
Okay.
Yeah. So these are all things that you got to look into.
Okay, very interesting. I think since I've never like actively tried to study in Australia, I've heard about these things, but now that you put it into perspective, I think some people are taking it really easily and they're not really considering all the factors when they try to apply.
It's honestly nutty. Some people look into buying a phone and they do much more research than the amount of money they have to spend and invest in their education and do less work, do less homework.
Yeah.
Say, look, just gotta better mengi ki then live.
No, but I think this is going to take some time to change because at least because I've gone through the education system in Bhutan, and then since education is free, healthcare is free, Bhutanese are entitled to the fact, at least in terms of education, like, hey, it's been free all my life. Everyone's done work for me. Why do I have to start thinking about it now? Why do I have to start paying for it now?
Correct.
So I think that kind of like
the mindset. Look, again, the mindset changes, and I'm going back full circle, and I'm going to tell you again that people that return will return with a positive work ethic because they're busting their butt out there, man. And then they come back and they're like, you know what? I'm going to bust my butt here. Yes, it might take a little bit longer, but I will see the returns. Whether it's in farming, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in business, whether it's in creating something, God knows, whatever it could be, it will happen. And I hope that I'm able to see that because I'm going to say, you know what? I've been saying this for a long time, and it's finally happening.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, I truly believe it. It will happen. The other thing that I wanted to bring out, since hopefully you guys are still listening, is the English language proficiency test. Look, what is it for? It's to ensure that when you reach your destination, you are able to understand the language of instruction at the university or college level. That's what the English language proficiency test is all about. It's not for you to learn how to speak English. Yeah, there's a system. There's a system, and just like any test you've done in your life, you prepare for the test. You never walk into a test like, okay, I'm going to take the test, and not prepare for it. You've tried doing this in high school. You try doing this anywhere in your life. What do? You get a big fat zero, right? You need to prepare for it because there is a system to it. You understand the system. You understand how they market. You understand how you manage your time, and you will do well. It's just about putting in the effort, whether you need to take classes, whether you need to take mock tests. Never walk into an English language proficiency test thinking, you know what, I am an English speaker. I've studied 12 years of English. I speak English. I watch all the English movies. I'm going to ace this test. Hell no, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
You're going to be asked certain things, and it's all about the system and how you manage your time. So you need to understand what the test is. There is a misconception right now that says PTE, which is the Pearson's Test of English, is the easiest test. For some reason, this word has gotten out, and you have people waiting for 2-3 months to take the PTE test right now. Yeah. Whereas if you want the TOEFL test, you can take it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that easy.
Okay.
It's a shorter test. Results come quicker. It's, again, the well-meaning friend that gives you the advice, suddenly it's like, that is the way that it has to be. It's the Bible. No, it's not. You have options. If you need to take an English language proficiency test and you're waiting for 2 months to take that PTE test because it's overbooked, it's oversubscribed, you can't get a seat. That's the scenario right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because word has gotten out that it's an easier test.
Oh, okay.
There is no factual study, nothing that substantiates that claim.
Okay.
But if I've only eaten paksha my whole life, I'm going to tell you, Sai, paksha. It's only paksha. And it has to be with lafu or it has to be with lom.
Okay.
Right? Nosha? Hell no.
Okay.
Chicken? Forget that. Yeah, hell no.
Okay.
Right? Because I've only eaten paksha.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you only what I've experienced and say that is the best.
But what do you think this claim comes from? Because you have to say like, oh, I've done this and I've done that, and this is definitely the easier,
Nobody
right?
asks.
No. Okay, they
Nobody
just
asks.
take it at face value.
Take it at face value. Look,
Okay.
if you preach it long enough, it becomes
Gospel.
It becomes fact. Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
Okay, interesting.
Nothing substantiates this information. But Bhutan's a small place, and that's just the way that it is. Again, a bit of herd mentality. PTE, 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 PTE.
Okay.
I'm just going on record and saying, look, you have options. Whether you want to take the TOEFL, whether you want to do the IELTS, it's entirely up to you. Anything that you do, you just prepare for it. As long as you prepare for it and understand what the format of the test is, you will be fine. Yeah?
Okay.
And the one tip I'm going to give you is to study. You need to put in a little bit of effort. So our training institute, we have TOEFL classes, we have IELTS classes. We're also...
No PTE classes.
We actually do have PTE classes.
Okay.
And we are the official TOEFL test center, so that's why I'm actually speaking about TOEFL and saying, yes, TOEFL is 1 hour, 56 minutes. It's the shortest test in the market today. I'm saying that because it is, but we're also the official people that do it. So I know as a fact that if you want to take the TOEFL test, you don't have to wait for 2 months.
Okay.
You don't have to wait for 2 months to have an English language proficiency test. But the point I'm trying to make right now is that you need to prepare for whichever test it is that you're going to take, number one. And number two, before you take the test, you need to understand what you need to score. Yeah? You want to go to a university and study, you need to know what the entry requirements are. You want to eat something, you can't just straight away eat it. You've got to prepare it. Yeah, otherwise it's going to be raw.
Okay.
Now the thing is that if you walk in and say, here's my English language proficiency test. Look, here's my TOEFL. This is what I've scored. My score is shit, by the way. But here's my score. Now this is where I want to go. You're the counselor. You're going to look at that score and say, you're going to have to take the test again, because where you want to go and what you've scored is not going to happen. That's what you're telling me.
Okay.
And I, in return, say, you know what? I don't want to spend that $200 again. I'd rather go to
Somewhere where this
to a
marks is
crappy
good,
college where
this
this is acceptable. And I'm going to spend X amount of thousands of Australian dollars paying that tuition fee, and then paying an additional $2,000 for my visa application fee, and say, hell no, I don't want to spend $200 more. And then what happens? You get rogered because your visa gets rejected because you're going to an institution that already is questionable, that already is, that has these issues. And please know that the High Commission knows. Yeah, they know very, very well the institutions that you're applying to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Okay. So, are you guys involved with the shady institutions as well?
No.
Okay. But you said
Look,
you've
we
got countries
represent
everywhere.
everyone. We represent everyone. So are we involved with them? Yes. Technically, we are. Do we promote them? No.
Oh, okay.
Do we advise people to go there? I can't say that we advise them not to go or to go there, because as somebody that represents everyone, we have to be objective about it. But we do let them know what to keep in mind.
Okay.
And so if you're applying here, what's the risk factor? If you're applying here, what's the risk factor? What's the potential outcome? So again, it's about making an informed decision. That's one of the things we always say.
Okay.
Whatever you do, make sure that the counselor gives you the information to make that informed decision. So you have the complete picture.
Yeah.
Then, at the end of the day, if you choose shady over unshady,
It's up to you.
it's up to you. And based on your wishes, we put in the application. But you are fully aware of the consequences of those decisions.
Okay.
That's the role of the counselor. That's the role of what we're doing. We cannot, under any circumstances, provide migratory advice. That is a complete no-no. That is a complete conflict of interest, because what we do is to ensure that you are going there as an international student who has the ability to work and study, full stop. Not saying that, look, this is how you do this because you're going to be, we have an office down there, we offer migratory advice, blah, blah, blah. That's something we stay far away from. Other people can do it, fine, I've got nothing to say, that's their business model.
Okay.
That's fine, you know. But for us, we just want to ensure that if you're coming to us, we try and do what is right for you. And if that means our numbers are not as bountiful as the person down the street, so be it. But for us, it's about credibility, it's about reputation, and ensuring that you get what you are meant to when you walk into our office.
Okay. Okay, thanks, sir. No, a lot of good advice, a lot of
Hopefully.
good counseling. But then,
Hopefully.
instead of, well, a final question I want to ask, which is going to be a little bit relevant. But before we look into the future, I want to ask a little bit about, sir, your own history and your own, what you call, relationship with education.
Okay.
So let's look a little bit to the past. At least when I'm talking to, I'm under the assumption that you've had some foreign education.
Yes.
So let's hear what level of education did you have in Bhutan? What was your own journey to study abroad and bring those skills back to Bhutan?
Okay. Well, I guess that's a great question, really. I was fortunate enough. Dad was in the foreign ministry. We grew up in the U.S. We spent about 9 years there. We spent another 4.5 years in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Oh, okay.
And then then we came back, and I went to school in Lunazampa for a couple of months.
Okay.
And of course, then we went out, and I came back again, and I did class 7 here.
Okay.
And I failed. I failed class 7.
Oh.
I got no issue about saying that. I failed class 7.
Zonga.
Yep, 100%.
But it's a huge learning curve then. You missed out like 12 years of, not 12, 6 years.
It's all right. It's all right. And then I went to a boarding school after that in India. Graduated from there. Went to, again, like I said, my dad made Dad made all the decisions, of course. And so he said, look, when I graduated, I went to Woodstock up in Uttarakhand.
Oh, my sister went to
Yeah, it was
Dehradun, I think.
best up in Missouri,
Yeah.
and best time I've had from all the countries that I've been to, all the schools that I went to. That was the #1 school, and I have the greatest memories from there. Having said that, I graduated. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the U.S. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Dad said, you're going to go to India. And I said, why am I going? Why are you doing this to me? And he said, you know, when you grow up, the connections that you make, the relationships that you incur along the way will be for life. And because of the proximity between India and Bhutan, that's more important. And when you're at that age, you're like, but you know
I'm tired of seeing these people already.
Dad was right.
I definitely agree.
100%. And it made a huge difference. So a lot of my closest friends are Indians. And also from, the friendships that I made from high school up in Woodstock as well.
So you did a degree in India?
Did my degree in India. I studied political science.
Okay.
Studied political science, and then I said, you know what? I want to become an international lawyer.
Oh, okay.
That was, that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
All the way. Everything, when I was in high school, I knew I wanted to do law.
Okay.
And so I studied political science, and then I was supposed to continue in the government law college in Bombay. Everything was set, and I didn't enroll. I decided to take time off.
Okay. We'll take a break because I checked the battery. That's a good cliffhanger. I'll just be back. Okay, we're back.
So I decided to take time off. The reason why I justified I needed time off was because when I graduated from high school, 3 days later, I was in university. And the decision,
that was quick.
yeah,
Wow.
it was like that. We literally got off. It was my best friend and I, Kelly. He came up for my graduation in Woodstock, and he had everything packed. Dad had made the decision for both of us.
What year is this? What year are we looking at right now?
1991.
Okay, early 90s. Okay.
Yeah, so 1991. Kelly and I, we had come up with, aside from the U.S., we had said, okay, Dad said no to the U.S. We said, let's go to Thailand. Let's go to ABEC. We would have been one of the first few Bhutanese. And then Dad said, you're not going to Bangkok.
Okay.
So I said, okay. Then we thought. We said, let's go to Cyprus.
Okay. Wow.
And
So why
again-
Cyprus?
Well, because it looked like a cool place.
Okay.
That was it. That was the only consideration. So two of us were brainstorming, and then Dad said, "No, there are too many spies in Cyprus."
Wow. Okay.
I was like, "Okay." So Cyprus went off the table, and then since Dad had studied in Bombay, he went to university in Bombay. He said, "Okay, you guys are going to Bombay," and Kelly's dad, Dasha Benji, said, "Okay, that's what's going to happen." So the two of us jokers, we landed up in Bombay in the middle of monsoon. We got off the plane, and there was 2 inches of water on the tarmac, and we looked around, and we said, this is where we're going to be for the next few years, man. And, then things happened. We made our lives out there. We had a great time in college, by the way, and didn't regret it at all. And we were both extremely happy, and Bombay was going through a lot of change, a lot of MTV, Channel V, all the VJs. I don't know if you're.
Yeah, I grew up watching those channels.
So this was the boom that was taking place. Modeling, fashion, all of this was happening. So it was a great time to be there.
Okay.
But coming back to the point, then Dad also said, "Look, you're going to be on a budget," and I said, "Again, why are you doing this to me?" And he's like, "Because when you start working, you're going to be only earning so much."
And you need to work on that.
And if you're getting this much pocket money that exceeds the amount you could potentially be earning, when you finish, how are you going to live?
Yeah.
So again, I was like, but made complete sense. So I learned the value of money as a direct result of that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Everything that happened after that was again international law. I still want to do international law. So here's the story. So that's why I took a break.
Okay.
So I took a break, and instead of enrolling into the law college, I said I'm going to play rugby.
Okay.
So I started playing rugby for the Bombay Gymkhana, and I took 6 months off.
Okay.
So I came home that winter, and Dad was like, "So how's government law college?" I said, "Oh, it's going great. This is I memorized the courses and this and that because I knew he would ask me." And then he said, "You know what? Interesting. I met with the registrar of the government law college, and there's no record of you at the government law college." I got rogered. I got rogered big time. And then Dad said, "Look, you have an opportunity. You can go back and actually enroll, or you can join the Bhutanese legal course." It was the first time it was being done.
Okay.
So I chose. By then, I had already met my present wife. We were dating, so I said, "I'm staying here."
Okay.
And so I did the legal course in Bhutan. We were the first batch. We were 12 of us, and my colleagues today that were in the. One is the Chief Justice presently. Tashidela to you if you're watching, which, I don't know if you are, but if you are, Tashidela to you. And, they're all judges. They're all in the High Court, in the Supreme Court. So they've done very, very well.
Okay.
But I chose a different path.
Okay.
I chose a different path because when we graduated, I graduated, I'd like to say in the top 12. But there was only 12
people. Good.
So I was in the top 12.
Yeah, but you said I was in top 12. It sounds much, It's the
But
phrasing.
anyway,
It's the phrasing. Yeah.
Cut a long story short, I came out and they were all immediately put into the civil service.
Okay.
And I was put into the civil service at a different grade
Okay.
from them.
Okay.
And I said, "Why?"
Because you came to us.
Well, aside from aside from coming 12th, it was also because I'd never studied in Bhutan. Aside from that 1 year in Yangchuk.
I think you have to be very proficient in Dzongkha. Is that?
Well, yes, you have to be very proficient in Dzongkha, but also every one of them that studied in Bhutan through and through.
Okay.
So I was like, "This is stipulation you're making against me. Why?" And I went to the RCSC secretary, Lampokandu, at that time, and I prepared my pitch, and I said, "This is what I'm going to say." I prepared my defense, everything. I walked in super confident, met with Lampo. Lampo was super nice, by the way, Lampo Kandu, and he listened to me, and I gave it all, and he just smiled and he said, "It's not going to happen." So I was like, "Okay," But again, fine. And so what happened? Life took me in a different direction. Then I thought, what could I possibly do then? And I didn't have to wait for like months. This is all in the span of a couple of weeks. I was like thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So banking was out of the question because I suck at maths. I still do today. I'm just really bad with numbers, full stop. But then I'd studied journalism in high school. So I said, well, why not try journalism? So I went to Consult. I met with Ace Kinley, editor-in-chief at that time, and he was super nice. And I think at that time, I just needed somebody to like be nice to me. So he was so nice. I said, you know what? I want to do this. And if any of you have just finished college and you're trying to figure out what to do, I would say get into the media. Get into the media for very specific reasons. Because one, it's a stepping stone. Two, it gives you the greatest connections throughout private sector, through the government.
Okay, I agree.
But if you're that desk journalist who only makes phone calls, who never goes to the offices, doesn't put in the legwork, you're not going to make those connections because you never see the person face to face. But back in my time, we had to do that. And the kind of connections that you create, unbelievable at all levels. Unbelievable. So if you want real experience, real connections, this is the way to go. And then later on, should you choose to follow a different path, so be it. But those connections remain. Unfortunately for me, now that I'm so old, those connections no longer exist because everyone's retired. But, and if you ask me who's doing this, and this today, I'm so out of touch with reality that unfortunately, I don't know who they particularly are. So I've got to ask other people to say, who is that person? Who do I contact? So those connections are gone. But I can tell you without a doubt in my mind that if you want to be able to start networking, join the media. Join the media, put in the legwork, visit people in their offices, make the time, have a conversation with them, and you will get to know them. Yeah?
Okay. All right. So we've gone somewhat back to where we are right now. So this was the time we started side hustle.
So what happened? So the side hustle. Okay, so obviously, look, the exposure helped. So it kind of kept me thinking outside the box. I was an oddity. I think I'll always be an oddity in many ways. But I didn't quite fit a particular profile. So I was always doing, weird things, which could be viewed as entrepreneurial. But again, it just depends on the time. We were in a different decade. A different era, and so things were just it was just different basically. But I think the ability and the exposure that I had gave me a lot of confidence, and the confidence to allow me to try new things and not be so afraid of failure and getting afraid of getting mud thrown in my face either. So it's okay, it's fine. I mean things happen, but the one thing that everyone must know is that nothing rarely works the first time. If you have an idea, you probably have to have 100 ideas. This is what my late father-in-law told me. He said you could have 1,000 good ideas, but only one would probably click. And the only way you're going to find that one that clicks is by going through 999 of them. So will you see failure? Definitely. Are you going to get crushed by failure? Hell no. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to try this. That failed, I'm going to try this. And you keep moving forward. If you get stuck in a rut and say, oh, I failed once, motsome, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to face failure. It makes you stronger. It better prepares you. And finally, when that thing clicks, then you're going to hold on to it, and bite down hard, and fight tooth and nail until you see it through. And that's what I've learned from my experiences from being abroad, getting that confidence, getting that ability. I used to stutter.
Oh, really?
I used to have a very bad stuttering problem. Once in a while, I might stutter on a particular word. But again, it was something that Dad put us through elocution classes.
No.
And so that eventually faded away. And one thing was also speaking slower, because we used to, my sister Pam and I, we used to speak really, really fast and stutter a lot. But this made a difference. And Dad recognized that I had a disability with maths. I mean, I call it a disability, Dad, just like, you suck at maths. And so we had math classes and all of that, that unfortunately didn't make any difference. But the elocution made a huge difference.
Okay.
And so I don't stutter today. And so these are the things that have helped. So again, trial and error. Trial and error, you're never going to know until you go through it. And you might fail, but suddenly something clicks and it works.
Okay.
And if you mess up big time, you mess up. It happens. And you move on. There's a word there's a saying as a journalist, you're only as good as your last story. So if your last story was a complete flop, write the next one and make it a success. And that's what you'll be remembered for, not for the flop. So yes, we're all going to fall down on our faces. Big, small, it doesn't matter. Get up, dust yourself off and say, okay, I'm moving forward. What's the next thing?
So were there other things you tried before the education consultancy kind of clicked? What were some things that you...
I thought about doing a piggery.
Okay.
Because I brought up the
paksha.
paksha. I love my paksha, by the way. It has to be greasy. It has to be oily. It has to be extremely unhealthy, but no skin. I don't like skin.
Me too, actually.
And I don't like the hair that sticks out.
Yeah, I'm not a
That's
big
kind of
fan.
gross. But the tsilu, no problem.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
And I like the oil, the maku at the bottom of the Deki where you go and you pour it over the rice.
Okay.
That's like...
There's a lot of flavor, but very... like high cholesterol.
Yeah, it's
Okay, but anyways, you tried a piggery. What else?
Okay, box making factory. Just tried various things, and again, medical. What was it? Oh, where we outsourced, where the hospitals would outsource medical reports.
Okay.
So we would set up a company here that would write out the medical reports for those wherever in the world.
Okay.
Outsourcing it.
Okay.
Medical transcription. That flopped, lost some money in it along the way, but it's okay.
Okay.
Tried different things where you put in a little bit of money and see if it works. You're gonna have losses. You're gonna have losses, but that's part and parcel of it. You get into debt also. That's part and parcel of it. The main thing is you get into debt, you do whatever you can do and cut down everything else in your life to ensure that you repay that debt first and foremost, because that debt just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And then before you know it, you're going to say, there's no way I can pay it. So avoid that.
Okay. So, you did all these, the failed side hustles.
Yeah.
Finally, the education consultancy clicked.
Well, education consultancy clicked, but look,
Okay.
having said that, again, the first thing I said in the beginning was that I'm an employee. I'm an employee for my wife, who's the chairman of the company, Chundu Enterprises. Chundu Enterprises presently deals with a dolomite. It's a powdering unit.
Okay.
We buy from the State Mining Corporation. The dolomite, we crush it into fine powder. It gets exported to India and Bangladesh.
What's it used for?
It's used as fertilizer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's used as fertilizer for the tea gardens. Then we're in the caterpillar business, so we import Caterpillar heavy earth mover equipment. We sell the machines here.
I thought it was Caterpillar.
yeah.
I thought it was bugs.
no.
I was like, why is he
So
exporting
that's the other thing that we do. So of course we have education,
Yes.
and then we have a training institute.
Okay.
These are the different areas that we're involved with. No one thing is big.
Yeah, but
It's
collectively it's big.
Collectively, it works out well, but unless you're a huge industrialist, with finding that niche thing which does superbly well, you have to be involved with different areas. But again, it exposes you to different kinds of people, and that also is a learning experience.
Okay. So, sir, I want to ask you this now. Since we talked about you, like, being in this industry and sending so many Bhutanese students abroad to study, and you also studying abroad, and then your father being a good mentor and at least a person who's guided you well, at least from my understanding.
Yeah, my dad and
so
my
how did you use all
father-in-law.
that experience and tools? You mentioned you have 2 daughters. Do you have more children?
2 daughters and 1 grandson.
Okay, so 1 grandson. So anyways, the grandson must be young right now. How old is he?
He's 4.5.
Okay, so he's not ready for that education part. But anyways, so how did you instill all this knowledge and at least life experiences with your daughters? How did you guide them? Say, did you go study here, study like this, work on a budget? Then you also mentioned that you made them study in Australia. Was it because you found it like an optimal place for your children to get the education? How did that process go?
Yeah, you know, we try as parents to instill certain things into our kids. But again, I'm going to use what Dad did with me as a young adult, and I was like, "Why are you doing this to me?" But only realizing the benefits later on. My late father-in-law kicked my butt when I was in private sector because dad was in the government. So everything I learned about business was through my late father-in-law. And he drilled me. He really put me through the grind. But again, he kept saying, "I'm training you for the future." And that ability to take the pressure and to meet and interact with all levels of individuals helped substantially. So what have I tried to pass on? Both my wife and I, we've tried to pass on the things that we learned. But again, as a parent passing it on to the child is never as receptive until they're older, until they're in their 50s or whatever, and they look back and they say, it makes sense. But the one thing I can say is there are certain things that the kids do that I did to them that they use, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and then I'm like, yeah, that's a direct result of it.
Okay.
But giving advice, it's actually easier advising people that you have no direct relationship with. I don't know why, but it is a lot easier. And, to a degree also, the individual is a lot more receptive because it's not a parent giving advice or lecturing a child. So, there's the relationship makes a difference as well. So did we try and instill? Yeah, of course we have. Have we done it? Yes, to a degree we have. Has it helped them? I'd like to think yes, it has.
Did you make them work on a allowance budget as well, just like your dad did to you? Or we spoiled them a little bit.
we it's kind of in between. It's in between. I make them very mindful of their expenses and how they use money. And so I think that's helped them to a degree, but a lot has to do with personality and also how frugal they may or may not be. So you could have one child that's kind of frugal, that says, okay, this is my expenses, this is how I need to look at it. I'm saving this up because I want to do that later on. And so they have also, so that they do. I can still remember, I wanted to go on holiday. I was in college, and my sister used to run a restaurant bar called Sambara. And so I said, Pam, I want to make some money. And those days, there were no discotheques, by the way. Everyone had house parties. But then here in this bar, it was quite popular. So I said, I want to throw parties here and charge tickets. So it would allow me to travel. So that's what I did as well to get some additional money to be able to go and to go here or there. But again, it's never easy come, easy go when you get money. It's you've got to understand the value of it. And I do believe that both the kids have that value. And when you get to a certain stage in life also, you need to be able to enjoy it too. Otherwise, why bust your butt and penny pinch when you're older? Spend it, use it, enjoy yourself, but also keep in mind that you do it within your means.
Within your means.
That's all.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Because at least personally, when I was in college, my mom sent a fixed amount every month, and that was for my rent, for my expenses. So I remember, but I was being smart also because she used to send me in dollars and it would get converted to the local currency. So the local currency is ringgit. She sent me, I remember, $500. So $500 for people living in Bhutan is a lot of money, but it's bare means when you're living abroad, especially in a developed country. So anyways, she sent me $500, which was 2,000 ringgit because every, it was 1,500 ringgit. Every $1, it was 3 ringgit. But after the second year, the economy, something happened, and then the conversion rate was 1:4. So she would send me $500, but I'll get 2,000 ringgit. So I shut up. I kept quiet. I kept quiet.
Does she know?
She knows. Then after the third month, she found out. She said, "You're being smart, huh? You tried to be smart." I said, "Technically, I didn't go outside the budget.
Yeah, I stuck within the budget.
I
You
stuck
sent me
within
that,
it.
I stayed with it.
He said, "But you tried to be smart." So then again, she did the maths and then she sent me the right amount. But it's like at least what it taught me was, okay, now I need to work within my means. I can't fuck around because I need to pay my rent first.
Hell yeah.
My utilities,
Yep.
then my food, then everything else is for fun.
So look, the thing is that you managed it though.
Yeah.
Once you have a system where you manage the money, then you know how to spend it.
Yeah.
But look, even till this day, I still get great advice. I get great advice from various people. And one is, again, somebody that went to Woodstock. We're very close. He's married to a Bhutanese. He's married to my cousin. And he's very good with money. He's very good with money to the point where, we give him hell about it also. But he's put in very clear perspectives on how to manage certain things. So at the end of the year with taxes, with this and that, he's helped me visualize and put in a system that works very, very well. And it helps. So no matter how old or young you might be, always be receptive to people who are passing on some information. Yes, sometimes it'll go in and out, but a certain percentage will be retained, and it helps. And this is the other thing about keeping an open mind. If you don't have an open mind, you will never be receptive to the information that's being passed on, whether it's whatever the topic might be. But when you speak, I'll listen. And I'll try and understand it, what it is, and process it. And then if it works, great. And if it doesn't, okay, it doesn't, right? But this is what conversations do. And people that don't have enough conversations will never get to a level where they're able to utilize the information that they're receiving to be able to use it productively, So it's extremely important to interact with different people.
Yeah.
Never be afraid of, this is a white guy. How am I going to have a conversation with a white person? There's that person. I don't think I want to have a conversation with that person. Or I might, have an inhibition or something like that. You need to get over certain things and just engage. And the moment you cross that barrier, that first hurdle, it just becomes easier and easier. And so you need to have things to talk about, things to discuss. The one thing is, when you're abroad, the fact that you're from Bhutan, you're from a kingdom, you've got a king, Gilufu Mindfulness City, the happiest country in the world, carbon negative. There's so many things to talk about, which you're used to because you've grown up here, right? It's second nature. But for these people, it's super duper interesting. So an icebreaker, start of a conversation. Hey, how are you? I'm from Bhutan. Where are you from? And then suddenly the conversation picks up. And before you know it, you're talking about all kinds of different things. And again, some of the information might be completely useless, but some of the information could be very, very valid. And that's when you get some of the best ideas, really. The ideas that popped in, for me, have taken place in the most unlikely places, but it happens. And the important thing is, how do you utilize it after that? That's all. So you need to put yourself out there, engage with people, not the same people. I mean, look, if you and I have been best friends for life, and we only engage with each other in our own circle, we're never going to grow, man. We are never going to grow. We might grow apart. We might start a family. You have your thing going. I got my thing going. But whenever we meet, we'll always connect. We'll always connect at that same level. But we've been able to diversify ourselves because of the different people and the different groups we've interacted with. And that's helped us grow. Whether it's, in the religious side, whether it's in the business side, wherever it might be, academic side, look, it happens. And so that's why, they have discourses. That's why there's this Australia-Bhutan thing happening right now.
What's happening right now?
There's it's an academic thing.
Okay.
An exchange of ideas, people that have studied in Australia, Australian university professors, they're just talking about various things.
Okay.
But, attending it, you might learn something, you might meet somebody interesting, you might make a connection. But I'm just using that as an example. You don't have to go to this, but you can go to anything. There's so many different things happening at the Royal University conference hall. You just need to be aware of it and just put yourself out there. Sit in the back row. Just sit there once. Listen. Open your mind to a different experience. And then, maybe ask a question. You never know what you're going to get a response to. If you ask a question that's weird enough, that's out of the box enough, or interesting enough even for that matter, somebody will come up to you later on and say, that was an interesting question, whether it was weird, out of the box, or just whatever. And then you engage. And then suddenly you realize that there's something to learn from their perspective and from you. So never go in with blinkers, which is hard to do. It is hard to do.
Okay, so a little bit unrelated, but related to the overall conversation we're having. So we talked about everything about at least how the Bhutanese mindset works, at least approaching towards studying abroad.
Yep.
And you've been in this industry for so long, and also you going through abroad, getting education, coming back, working here. Now, at least from the consultancy firm, Jinda, whatever point of view, what do you think, this is not a responsibility for you, but what do you think our country or our government needs to do in order for people like you to go out of business, which means basically saying keeping people to not think about moving abroad first. So at least what I think, at least it's not my generation anymore, but the next generation, what the kids I think they think is, it's like a rite of passage. You go to, you study class 12 till Bhutan, then you go study in a local college.
Yep.
Then after that, you get a master's in Australia, make some money, come back home, buy a car, buy a house.
Whatever.
Settle your life. That's become somewhat of the status quo or like the Bhutanese dream.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, right now.
It could change.
It could change, but right now. But what do you think, at least in your experience, like you know why people are going abroad, right?
Yep.
So what do you think would be a good thing or maybe a suggestion that needs to change in order for people to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to go abroad. I want to stay here because I can do X, Y, and Z. What do you think that could be?
Okay, we need people that make decisions to be a lot more open-minded. Yeah, and open-minded in the sense that when a business proposal is being put forward to an office, that they look at it with an open mind and not look at it in a black and white way. Now, unfortunately, what we tend to see, and again, I'm making a complete generalization, is that if it doesn't fit, then there's no room for it.
Okay.
Yeah? And so why is that? It's because that's just the system. It's a box. So different ideas need to be taken a little bit more seriously. If the government or whomever the policymakers are is so stuck on ensuring that there's no shady stuff happening, then the rules that are implemented to prevent it, because they already exist, get enforced. Yeah? Enforce it. Penalize. Make it happen. Immediately you know that once you burn your hand, are you going to put your hand in the fire again? No, you're not. So you know that you're not going to cross that line, because a lot of the things is there's already a preconceived notion that this is happening because this, I mean, this is, sometimes the mindset is like that. I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying that's the assumption.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I think we need to be a lot more open-minded. But in order for people to be able to think outside the box that are presently decision makers, they need to be out-of-the-box thinkers from school. And does the school system allow you to think out of the box? Does the school system allow you to question the teacher? Does the school system allow, the education system allow you to question a theory? Or is it to be taken as biblical, black and white? This is pecha, nothing doing. This is the way, this is the only way. Yeah, like, what's that Star Wars thing, man?
Star Wars?
The Mandalorian.
Oh.
This is the way.
Oh.
That's it. And this is the only way. Look, if this continues, and if you're brought up in a system like that, then eventually when you're in a position of certain power, your mindset's also going to be like, this is the way. And there's no other way. So how are people going to be able to be able to explore themselves to that degree. So there's a lot of pushing boundaries, and I'm not saying it's not happening either. It is happening. There's movements that are taking place. There are changes that are taking place everywhere, and nothing happens overnight. So will it happen? It will happen. Whether it's a direct result of the cycle coming back full circle, on new entrepreneurs coming back with new ideas, new exposure, and challenging the system and saying that, look, this works. The system being exposed to it and saying, you know what? It is working. Let's go this way. Or is it going to take, kids to just say, look, this needs to change, this needs to change, and eventually change happens? I don't know how it's going to work, but should it happen, that's what's going to eventually help. Because if you have easier access to loans, if you have a stricter policy on the repayment of those loans, then people have access to finance. You get access to finance, you have the ability to try out different things. Yeah? Okay. Because at the end of the day, you need capital. You need money to start off something. Everyone's going to say, I can't start a business because I have no money. But you make that accessible. Yeah? And the thing is, unfortunately, historically, precedence is already set that we are bad paymasters when it comes to loans. That's why there's so many defaulters. That's why so many things are going up for auction. We don't take it seriously enough. Yeah, but before it goes to a crazy amount, some check and balance. Again, I'm not a math guy. I'm not a finance guy. But at a layman's level, what needs to change? This needs to change. Because if you're young and you want to try out something and you go to the bank and say, I've got this great idea. I need a loan to do this. How much can I get? And yes, it might not be a large amount, but it might be just enough to kickstart something and give that individual the ability to try out something. And if it fails, fine, but it's not an amount that is unpayable either. You know what I mean? So something needs to change in this system. And until that happens, you're still going to have the youth saying, you know what, I'm going. But playing the devil's advocate, I'm also going to say that the attitude of the kids need to change as well. Where one failure does not mean lifetime failure. Okay? Because we see that all the time. The second thing is not exposing themselves to the right things either. They stay in a little bubble, and if that bubble has negativity in it, that's all that eludes out of it. And so anything they try will come from a negative perspective, and then nothing will be positive. Nothing will come out of it. So even if they try, they don't try hard enough. So I'm going to give you an example. I've done so many interviews. I like to do interviews because I like to interact with the people that I'm looking at hiring. I've had people that come into the office, they don't know what job they've applied for. Look, if you're that relaxed, you're not going to get a job anywhere. But then you have the gall to say, Bhutan has no opportunity. Get what I'm saying? So again, I'm playing both sides. I'm saying, yes, the system needs to change. Yes, there needs to be a little bit of exposure given whereby kids are able, the younger generation has access to certain things to say that, okay, let me try this back home, right? Let me not make that investment, of 30,000 Australian dollars, and let me try using that here. Let me see what I can do here. Or you have those that just don't care and they walk into your office, they haven't brushed their hair, they're smelling of yesterday's booze. And I say, so what job are you here for? And they have no clue. They'll say,
I saw a vacancy.
I saw a vacancy, I just applied for it. I got a call saying to come. I don't know what it's for because I've applied to 5 other places. Get the hell out of my office. That's my first response. Please leave. I don't say get the hell out, but I say please leave. Straight off.
Oh, really?
I don't waste I'm not going to waste time with people that have come in so ill-prepared.
Yeah, but I think Bhutanese, we feel like it's kind of, even though if the person is unprepared, I think deep down, rootedly, we're like, he's going to be mean to just chase him away now.
Look, that's again being out, being exposed.
Yeah.
I've got a thick skin as well.
Yes.
Because I've had stuff said to me. I've experienced a lot of things, but sometimes you need to have tough love.
Yes, I agree
And
with that.
I will tell them also later on, or at that time, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, and say, look, you are completely ill-prepared. Anywhere you go to for a job application the way you have just done, you're going to get nowhere in life. And then I'll say, please leave. But honestly, I will spend the least amount of time, and immediately, within the first sentence that comes out of their mouth, I know that they're ill-prepared, and I'll just ask them to leave because I got to go through so many interviews.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it's a selection process, and they need to be prepared for this because the moment they finish school, the moment they've graduated, they're adults. When you finish high school, you are an adult. You're a young adult, but you're an adult. Nobody's going to hold your hand. You need to face realities of life. College, you are a mature adult by the time you finish college.
I doubt at least.
Well, but this is the expectation.
But yes.
Because
I
they want to
understand.
be treated like adults. They're saying, I'm not given any opportunity. But hell, if you're going to walk into the office and not know what you've applied for, who's going to give you an opportunity? All right? You're just going to be asked to leave.
Yes.
I put an application here. I put in 10 applications. Nobody's responding. Okay, that's failure. You move on and you keep doing it. You keep doing it till it works out. Every athlete, you listen to any of their stories, the one thing that they say is, you just got to keep pushing, keep pushing the boundary, keep going at it. Whether you're sick, whether you're well, whether it's rainy, whatever the weather is, you keep going at it. That's what gives you grit. Failure doesn't mean the end. Failure means a new chapter opens up in life, and you move forward, and you write that story until something clicks. And yes, there might not be as many opportunities, but there still are opportunities. It's a matter of putting yourself out there and having a conversation. If you've never had a conversation with an individual other than your closest friend, when you walk into an office and you have a conversation with me, you're not going to know what to say. And you're not going to be able to say anything. You're going to be so quiet and you're going to be whispering. And you're going to be saying, hello, my name is Palden Tshering. I'm here for the job interview. And I'm going to be like, what did you say? I can't hear you. And I'm literally going like that because they're just so unsure of themselves. But they want to be treated as an adult. And they want the full, it's almost like you want you have to get, you deserve to get.
The entitlement, like I mentioned.
Yes. But it goes both ways.
Yeah, it goes.
And again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm just giving you the experience from both sides.
I think it's the chicken and the egg problem. The chicken's laying the egg, and egg becomes the chicken, which lays the egg again. It's a cycle. But I love your honesty, at least to tell people, if you're not prepared, then please leave.
Yeah,
because
please
your time is valuable, and
is.
they've not appreciated it enough to prepare.
No.
So I really agree with that. But I think that sentiment is very hard to implement in our society because we're very compassionate, as we say, or polite, and we try to put that above everything else. But sometimes, sometimes you got to get your hands dirty, which I appreciate, sir.
Look, I don't know how compassionate I am. I don't know.
No, there are some levels of compassion.
Yeah.
Like you can give someone a hard time, and they can learn from it, and then they can be better.
I do that a lot. I do. I'll be frank. And anybody that's worked with me, that's worked for me, they know that. They know that I give them a hard time, but I give them a hard time because I expect more. And this is what I learned. I learned it from the business perspective from my late father-in-law. I learned it from my dad when I was a younger kid. Pushed, hard love. And has it helped me? Hell yeah, it has. Okay. It definitely has. There's no two ways about it. Did I hate it when I was going through it, both with my father and with my late father-in-law? Absolutely. I'd be in tears sometimes. But it made me stronger. And it made me become, I'd like to say, the individual that I've become today, which is, thanks to both of them. And hard love, being straightforward, being as tantangta as you can be, verbally, without beating around the bush, like they do in the National Assembly. You need to do that because that's the only way the kids are going to grow up.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think we learned a good preparation if you want to study abroad or want to go
Just
into
be
business.
prepared. It's like I'm going to come back
Yeah.
like you prepare for the TOEFL, like you prepare for taking the test, you need to prepare for everything that you're going to do.
Right.
If you're going on a trip, I guarantee if you're going on holiday and you've never been there before, you're doing Google everything. Like, no. Where can I go? Where can I buy this? What can I do? What can I eat? How much is this? How much is that? When it comes to other stuff, where's that inclination? Where's that drive? Where's that enthusiasm?
I'm sure you're the trip planner who makes all the itinerary during vacation times.
I am the trip planner, but I am not the decision maker.
Okay.
And so very, very often,
Secretary but not minister.
yes, everything that's planned is changed.
In the last moment.
And it's all right. That's life.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, but that's very nice too. Okay, sir, thank you so much. I think I've taken too much of your time.
Yeah, I'm
so
happy.
one last lighthearted question. It's just a personality test I do in the podcast.
Okay.
So do you eat Lay's, sir?
Yes.
Potato chips?
Yep.
Okay, what's your favorite flavor?
Salted. Classic.
Yellow? Okay.
I'm a
Good.
classic man.
I'm a classic man as well. So I do a personality test, so I feel blue is the most generic flavor.
Okay.
I think that if you're blue, you're like, okay. But if you're anything other than blue, then I can put a little bit of kind of spots, like,
Okay.
you're that kind of personality.
What kind of ice cream do I eat?
Do you eat or do I eat?
Do I eat?
I'm thinking vanilla. Yeah.
Sometimes chocolate,
Okay, but mostly vanilla.
mostly vanilla.
Salted caramel, I feel.
No, just plain vanilla.
Plain vanilla. Okay, simple things.
Yep.
Okay, what's your death row meal if you were to die tomorrow?
Oh, it's gonna be greasy, oily pork shell without skin and no hair sticking out of it.
Have you seen something called a chicharon where they burn the skin and it gets crispy?
I've had the crispy look from mom's side of the family. The crispy pork, deep fried pork with garlic. I love that. And yeah, sometimes it does have hair in it, but I'll eat it.
I'm also not a fan.
But I'm not a fan of like
Meals, I'm not a fan of
fresh meat that's got that.
hair. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that
Yeah,
hair.
meals, I'm not
It's
a
just
fan.
like, no, man, I can't do that. So I'll cut it off.
Yeah, I also cut it off. But then recently I went to Thailand and they burn it on top so it gets crispy. So I'm like, if it's crispy, I'll eat it. If it's not, then I'll skip.
So I'll eat pork all the time.
Okay. So
I'll choose
is
pork
protein.
over anything, if it's cooked the right way.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about
Actually, it's
kangsum?
cooked anyway.
How about
No, those the weird things I
we
won't
also don't
touch.
like the texture.
Ears, nose, pango, trotters. I don't even eat
Chicken
juma.
feet. Chicken feet?
No, chicken feet. No, I don't.
You don't like it?
My wife loves it. My kids love it. I'm like, no, thank you. But juma I won't eat because
Gip?
it's like intense. And gip,
No. Okay. Okay.
anything kind of weirdish.
Okay.
I'm just like that. I don't eat any seafood.
Oh, at all?
I don't eat any fish. I don't eat any prawns. No crabs. Have I tried jingem? Yes, because my late father-in-law made me try it. But I'll never eat jingem again. And I tried it and I said, you know what? I don't like it, la.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you so much. Finally, since I could not offer you anything else in my last, towards the end of our podcast, I asked my guests if they want to promote anything. They can do that. So, for example, usually if I have singers here, they'll be like, okay, follow me on Instagram or TikTok or check out my new song. Bye-bye or subscribe. So, floor is yours. Anything you want
Okay.
to.
The only thing, again, I'm going to say is
You can give any
whatever you
advice.
do, make an informed decision. That's our motto. We like to say a trusted brand, a trusted name. That's Global Reach, that's us, which is fine. But before you walk in and go to any consultancy or decide to go anywhere to study abroad, make an informed decision, which means collect all the information and then decide what you want to do with that information so you can make the best possible choice for yourself because you're investing a lot of money in your future. So that's the main thing. Yes, if you come to Global Reach, we'll welcome you with open arms. Let everyone know we're happy to help. But like I said, look, there's 80 of us. And you can go to any one of the 80. But since Sai has said promote, I'm going to promote
Global Reach.
Global Reach. Hell yeah.
And if you want caterpillars also, apparently.
Yeah, if you want, yeah. And if you want to do the TOEFL IBT, we have plenty of spots open. Our office is right next to Global Reach. It's on the same floor, and it's a sister concern. So call up, reach out. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We have a QR code, which is somewhere floating around in the background. All of it's there. Just get in touch. Get in touch, ask the questions. A conversation doesn't cost you anything but a few minutes of your time. And if you're better off because you've spent a few minutes asking the right kind of questions, who's going to benefit at the end of the day? You are.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you again.
All right, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah,
honestly.
I hope so.
And I'm sure if someone's in class 12 or in college and they're considering to go abroad and they listen to the whole conversation, I think they got a lot of insight.
Yeah.
And plus, you give them options to get more, information. So I think it's very valuable for anyone who listened. And also, people who are trying to come back or trying to stay here, I think Sir has given us a lifetime of advice in 2 hours.
Yeah. It's been 2 hours.
Yeah, it's been 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay,
But it happens. It happens. People forget how fast the time passes by.
I hope the time's passed fast and you guys have listened to everything.
And actually, my main audience is in Australia, so people must be, cleaning or doing some blue collar stuff and listening to
whatever you guys are doing, wherever you might be in the world, and if you are doing a blue collar job, be proud of the fact that you are doing that. The dignity of labor is extremely, extremely important. I've sold lafu. Is it lafu? Yes, I've sold lafu in the Sabji Bazaar.
Why?
Because we grew
a
lot.
Abundance of lafu.
No. What am I saying? Lafu. Lafu and actually, okay, there is a story about the lafu, but we were growing chilies. We had a lot. My wife will kill me. But we grew a lot of chilies. We had so many chilies. We've given chilies to families, to friends, sackfuls, and we still had an excess load of chilies. So I was sitting there and I sold Emma in the Sabji Bazaar. I had a little thing that I sat on and I just sold and I shouted, Emma, 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 at whatever price. And I did that. Nothing wrong with it. Look, I'm not going to say it's a high. I'm not going to say it's a low. I'm going to say that it's a life experience. And so whatever it is that you might be doing, just do it. Do it to the best of ability, and know that there's always something that you can look at in the future. And if you're happy with the present line of work, so be it. It doesn't mean you have to change. Consistency is not a bad thing. Some people say that, I want to do this, and they keep moving on. So you're a rolling stone, and you're in one place for 1 year and another place for 2 years. When an employer looks at that, the first thing they're going to say is that there's no consistency. So the amount of time I put into training you, the amount of time you get to get used to the work, and when you're finally proficient, you're going to move on, you're not the person I'm going to hire. If you're doing a blue-collar job and you're busting your butt out on the field, you're digging, you're cleaning, you're at the traffic sign, whatever it you might be doing, you're bricklaying, your mind's going to be thinking of things that you could be doing. Inculcate that. Get used to it. Think about where could it lead to, and then what opportunities you have to bring it back home and how you can implement it. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much time you've been out, when you come home, it's always coming home. It is. And, there's a lifestyle, there's things that you can do here that you just can't do out there. And there's a huge support network from uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, cousins, blah, 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 which is all there to help out, which is a good thing and a bad thing because it might make you lazy as well. But think about what you can do. And the one thing that we mentioned a couple of times is Bhutanese like to replicate. And again, it's not just a Bhutanese thing. It's something that everyone does. See what works that side that's not being done here. Yeah? Window cleaning. Window cleaning is not being done to a large degree. If you do, it's extremely expensive. But you set up something where window cleaning, carpentry, electrician, plumbing, you have all of that under one roof. Yes, there is a company that does it, but you can make it mobile. You can make it work. I'm just throwing out different ideas, whatever it might be. Something that's working really well, that doesn't need a large footfall, you can replicate that back home and add your own twist to it and make it Bhutanese. I don't know, it could be anything. But the thing is, with the exposure, it opens your eyes to everything that's out there. And there's something there that can be brought back that works. I don't know what it is, but there is. And if you've got the time to think because you're physically doing stuff, make the most of it. That's all.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. This is the end of the podcast. So before we say goodbye, again, we have to look up and thank our angels, our podheads.
Thank you.
Thank you, podheads, and also our podhead pro, Ugyen Tech and Pema Samdrup. We appreciate your support. All right. It was a long conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed. All right. Until the next episode, goodbye. Okay, so we do a little thing where we clap at the end. So just one single clap.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Don't forget to subscribe. If you watch to the end because of this face, consider subscribing because of this face. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you.